You're listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, where you get valuable information you just can't find anywhere else. To thrive in today's trying times, you need the Financial Survival Network, now more than ever. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and get your free newsletter and gift. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.
Welcome. You are listening to watching the Financial Survival Network. Are you part of the Great Resignation? Have you left your high-paying job wherever with corporate America or corporate anywhere and decided you're done, and then decided, I'm not quite ready to retire yet. I think I'll go buy a business or start a business, and then the fun begins. Well, if you're in that situation, you're going to want to hear from this person, Kevin Stansfield. Kevin, you are a business coach, action coach, as you call yourself. And like we were talking about pre-call, so many of you out there are leaving your jobs for the greener pastures of becoming an entrepreneur. And from my own personal experience, Kevin, I'm fourth generation entrepreneur. I always say I could never work for anyone else because no one in their right mind would ever hire me. Yeah, like who would do that? But the difference between having a business and basically buying a job, that's what you really have to beware of. You mentioned that your dad had a high-paying job, walked away, bought a business from a stranger, and the problem is that buying a business is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're going to get. So share with us, if you will, Kevin, what happened with your dad and what you learned from it.
Yeah, so, I don't remember much of it. I was early teens at the time, but, looking back, I think, I've been coaching now for about 16 years. So I see a lot of business owners. I've coached over, I think, 300 in that time. And it's amazing how similar the story is, and that's why I relate it back to my dad and why I wrote sort of my first book, really about that roller coaster ride that you're on, when you do buy a business or start a business. So really for him, he got to that sort of midlife crisis. I think he must have been late 30s, early 40s, probably achieved everything on his sort of bucket list. He was, chief financial officer at the Dover Harbour Board, which was one of the biggest employers in our hometown. But he was still working for a managing director who, I do remember him sort of coming home swearing and, not saying particularly nice things about him. Like most parents, they want to provide the best for their family. And I think he felt that he could do that better by being in control of his own destiny. And for him, it was the opportunity came. He was talking to some friends and a guy in a pub. And this guy wanted to retire from his sign company. So my dad knew nothing about signs, but being a financial director, he felt that he knew how to run a business. And so he basically did a deal with this guy and worked up, with him for about a year, I think, until the guy then retired and left him in the sole ownership of this little business. And my mum had started a printing business at the time. So she started from scratch, printing press in our front room. And I do remember at the age of 11, I was sitting there typesetting, holding a little lead print letters, which probably isn't, you don't want to be holding lead things at the age of 11 years old. So it might account for a lot of my mental health issues now. But we started that in the front room, and then she bought a litho machine, which went into the garage. And you see this across the board, across the line, that a lot of people start businesses with a good idea. They want to be in control of their own destiny, but it's like jumping on a roller coaster and then off it goes. And the ups and downs that they had after that were pretty immense. The good times, and I remember great times as a kid. Great holidays, and good Christmases with good presents. And then the bad times when we couldn't afford anything, and we had to go camping rather in nice hotels. And that was the sort of the journey. And I was about sort of 16, 17, leaving school. I think my dad wanted me to come and work in the family business. And I do remember, look, at the time thinking, Dad, why would I want to come and work in your business? It's killing you.
Mm-hmm.
You're never home before 6 o'clock, or at that time 7 o'clock. You're working all weekends. The only time I see you is when I come into the factory and help you out. And I thought, this is ridiculous. Why would anybody want to start a business when it takes up so much of your life, and you sacrifice your family, for this great entrepreneurial dream? And it wasn't until sort of later in life, I became a chartered accountant, went into practice, went into industry, became a freelance FD, and I was working for some really fast growth companies that I then actually saw, if you get it right, if you do it the right way, you can build a business that works without you. You can have, the big holidays, the big cars, the houses, the boats, the planes. You can build a lifestyle that you dream of. And unfortunately, my dad didn't do that. He got stuck in his little rut. He built a business that basically was a job. And unfortunately, in the mid-90s, in the recession back then, it wasn't sustainable. He was on his own. He had no one to talk to. The banks were useless. His accountant was, useless. He was a very proud man, bottled it all up inside of him. Didn't speak to anybody. And the first thing I knew, I got a phone call from him, said, Kevin, I think the business is going to go bust, and I don't know what to do. And luckily, I had some really good contacts at the time, and we managed to save the family home. But he had to let go of the business, and he was 55 at the time, and he never worked again. He had serious health issues after that. I still think that he had a form of cancer, but I think the pressure of running the business was a big factor in that. And unfortunately, he passed away. I think he was 65 and 3/4. And he'd had his pension for 6 months before it was over for him. So I've seen when you can build a great business, and I've seen when it goes wrong. And that's why I got into coaching, was to help business owners like my dad, who are passionate about what they do, but want to unlock that potential and move beyond. I wouldn't say self-employed, because he had a team of 5 people there. From outside, he had a successful business, but the business was him, and he couldn't let go of it. And he certainly wasn't able to sell it for an amount of money that would then mean that he didn't have to work again.
Right. Well, I've sold a couple of businesses in my day, bought a couple. And what do you think the biggest mistakes are that wannabe or budding entrepreneurs that you can make when you're looking at buying a business?
I think when you're certainly buying a business is easier than starting it from scratch. So, I mean, it's amazing if you look at the stats, the number of businesses that are out there, and I've only done the work in the UK, but I'm led to believe it's the same stats in the US.
Universal.
That 98% of businesses will have not got past $1 million turnover or employed more than 10 people.
And
so
the survival rate of those businesses,
5 years is about 40%.
I'm sorry, how much? 40?
About 40% survive past 5 years. 80% will be gone in 10 years.
Wow. Yeah, well, having started a number of businesses myself from the ground up, I agree with you. It's almost always more advantageous to actually buy an existing business. Yeah. My preference is to buy one that is break even or having a marginal loss, because the odds are the current owners really don't see the potential of it, or maybe they do see the potential, but they're just not capable of actually bringing the new blood necessary to really make that thing succeed. We see it over and over and over again. People really people buy these businesses, turn them around, sell them for a fortune. If you were looking at particular categories of businesses to go into now, Kevin, what would you pick?
I don't think it changes, to say now. I mean, trying to find the unicorn, that business that is going to be the next big thing is, there's a lot of luck involved in that. Even all the private equity firms, they'll buy 10 in the hope that one of them becomes the unicorn. The real key for any business is repeat business. It takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money to buy a customer. So what you want to be able to do is maximize the lifetime value of that customer over the next 10 years. So businesses that are in service where there's service contracts involved, so you're tied into that business, or you're guaranteed repeat business. So you can actually do the work once, get the client and then get paid forever, is one of the key factors for any successful business. And certainly buying one, that's what we're definitely looking for on acquisition side.
One thing I've seen with these shows on like Profit and all of these business shows is that people think that when they're going for funding and they can get Mark Cuban to finance them, that's their goal.
Right.
They really have, that Shark Tank concept. They really have no concept of what it's like. Of you're not pitching when you want investors. You're not trying to get the sharks on board with you. Although it's great if you can, but most of you out there will never have that opportunity, and you don't need to anyway. But people are under this misconception that I'm going to get it to the point, and then I'm going to go on Shark Tank, and it's going to be great from that point.
There is have you read, there's a great book by a guy called Michael Gerber called The E-Myth. I don't know if you've read that book, but his view, that was written in the late 80s, was this sort of entrepreneurial myth that that business owners are entrepreneurs, and they are looking for the investors and the big multi-million pound deals. And when he did his survey, he realized that 80% of businesses out there are technicians, the plumber that starts a plumbing business, the accountant that starts an accountancy business. So they're not going into business with that vision of where they want the business to be. And that's, you said to me about the biggest mistake people make when they go into business. I would say the biggest mistake is they don't have clarity of where they want that business to be in 5-10 years' time. Because the first thing about starting a business is, I want this business to pay me an income and give me a bit of a lifestyle that I wasn't getting when I had a job. And it takes, I would say, roughly about 5 years to get to that point from a startup. You've got to put the blood, sweat and tears into it to get it going. But the big danger is when you get to that point, and it's roughly around about 500,000 sort of turnover, up to about 1 million turnover, is you then get into a comfort zone that your bills are paid, you get your weekends back perhaps, you're working 40, 50 hours a week, making a reasonable amount of money, having 2-3 weeks holiday a year, still less than all of your employees. But you're okay, and you look around you and the people that you associate with are at the same sort of level. So you feel, actually, I'm, compared to people I'm with, I'm okay. And unfortunately, that's when the business plateaus. It hits this glass ceiling of around about that 1 million sort of turnover. And you try something, it doesn't work. You try something, it doesn't work. And pretty much for the next 10, 20 years, that business then bobs around about that 1 million turnover until the business owner is in their 50s, 60s and goes, you know what, this is bloody hard work now, and I feel like I should retire. And who's going to now buy my business? And those businesses just don't get sold. Maybe somebody like yourself who's got the entrepreneurial sort of vision, who can see, actually, that business that's been ticking over, I can now take that and I can sort of scale that business to the next level. But people like that are few and far between. The venture capitalists, the VCs, the people with loads of money aren't interested because they want the business at the 2, 3, 4, 5 million, because the numbers are then worth them actually getting involved. And that's why the majority of businesses don't get sold. Maybe they can rope family and friends into it, in the second generation, I coach a lot of second generation, business owners, and they take it over from mum or dad, and they don't have a vision for the business. So again, it sort of goes through another generation of being a bit stuck. And sometimes they then feel obligated to the parents of taking this business over. But there's no real passion in it because they didn't start it. They're sort of almost doing it out of, say, obligation to mum and dad. And then they get depressed very quickly. And as soon as you're depressed within your business, you'll know that the business isn't going to go anywhere at all. It needs an element of energy to drive it forwards.
Consistent. As far as what people do in terms of marketing, the people you coach, are they good marketers? Are they misguided? Are they ineffective? What do you find the biggest issue with marketing?
Don't just survive. Thrive. The Financial Survival Network.
Fury Gold Mines is a Canada-focused exploration and development company committed to aggressively growing its scalable, high-grade gold assets with major drill campaigns planned across its 3.5 million-ounce portfolio. Fury is led by a management team of proven explorers and developers with a track record of success in advancing and financing project development. Fury Gold Mines is well-positioned to create value for investors with low-risk development growth and the potential for a new major discovery. Fury Gold Mines trades on the TSX and NYSE American under the ticker FURY. To learn more, go to furygoldmines.com. That's furygoldmines.com.
This is the Financial Survival Network, the information you need to thrive now more than ever.
I must admit that I find marketers, people that are professional marketers, are actually bad at marketing. So certainly business owners, it's probably one of their least. Marketing and finance are generally the business owner's Achilles heel. They can sell things to people, put them in front of a warm prospect and they're fine. Delivering that product and service, they're fine. But finding new business on a regular basis and actually understanding how the numbers within their business work, those are the two big holes in the majority of business people.
When I went to school, the first course I had in college was Marketing 101. And, back then, it was a long time ago, we didn't appreciate so much or understand branding. Every business that's successful in this day and age, whether it's a solopreneur or a multi-zillion dollar company like Tesla, must master their brand.
Yeah.
And brand includes everything. It's sales, it's marketing, it's product. If there's a product, it's service, it's advertising, it's all of these things. So branding, I think, is an evolving science, but so many smaller entrepreneurs out there, you really don't have a clue what's involved.
I think, in a way they do, because when you start a business, you are the brand. People buy people. So, let's say the plumber that starts a plumbing business, people go to that plumber because they do a good job. They have some brand values that they live by. The dodgy ones will always make money shortly, but then they'll go bust. But the ones that are going to be there for the long haul, build their business based on their own values, principles, who they are, how they do business. And that will always sell what you do. What they're not good at then doing is, once they've got it, is actually understanding what it actually is and then getting other people to follow in their footsteps. So they'll take on somebody else, who will go and do the work, and they won't do it quite as well as the business owner. So the business owner says, well, you're no good at it, so I'll get rid of you and I'll go back and do it again. So this is why they end up in this roller coaster, up and down, up and down. They never really sort of get out of that cycle, because they don't understand that the thing that gets you from that sort of sub-million to being 1, 2, 3 million is not your ability to sell. It's not your ability to market. It's your ability to build a team of people around you that have the skills that you don't have. And that's what I would say is the fundamental flaw. Is the successful people out there are very good. They're people. They can build teams of people, get them passionate about what they do, and leverage the growth of that business through people. And that's one of the big skills that you're not taught at college and school. You have to learn sort of through doing it yourself, and generally through trial and error. And it's learning from the mistakes that you make. Back in my finance director days, we took a business from startup to 400 employees in 6 years. And God, did we make some mistakes? One day we lost 30% of the workforce, ran out the back door because the police came in the front door.
Oh my goodness.
So you learn from it's great when you're playing with other people's money. You don't mind those mistakes. When it's your own money, then people are a little bit more hesitant to actually make those commitments to invest in their people.
So when you're going to buy a business, you're going out there, presumably you need some financing, you need some cash. You might get the owner to finance it. Again, this is why I like marginally profitable or marginally losing businesses. The cost is going to be less, and in all likelihood, these people want out, motivated sellers.
Yeah.
And you might get your best deal there. And really, but there's red flags when you're looking for these businesses, right? I remember a company, and it's a printing company, and what happens? The mall owner rents out a space like 3 doors down to Staples that does printing and everything there, and it was crushing. So there's all these red flags that you don't know about till you really get your feet under the desk. How do you avoid them? What do you think the most common ones are?
I think if you're looking to buy businesses, and I'm working with a number of my clients at the moment on exactly that, acquiring businesses, and going back to what industry should they be in. One with repeat business, so it doesn't really matter what they do as long as there's customers. I think you've got to then understand how the business works, the mechanics, how do the numbers all work together? Where does the margin come from? Is it scalable? If you employed another two, 3 people, would that return in an increase in revenues? And there is always going to be issues with things that you don't see, and that's why you occasionally put warranties within the contract so that you cover most of those. But I think you've got to would I suggest if you haven't had a business before, going out and buying a business cold, I'd potentially say that's a bit dangerous. You can do it with somebody that has done it before. Get advice, somebody like yourself who's can sort of see things that other people can't. A really good way, if you are looking at this sort of people coming out of employment, is buy a franchise. If you want to do it for the first time and you want to mitigate your risk, buy a franchise, which is basically should be a business in a box. So a lot of the things that you're going to have to learn are already taken care of: the systems, the processes, the brand, the marketing. So you can focus on 1 or 2 of the areas and cut your teeth on, on actually building a franchise business, rather than the risk of taking a brand, a completely different business that might have a lot of skeletons sitting in the closet for you.
Yeah, and that's another thing, the legal pitfalls, but we could talk about them at another time. So, when you start a business from scratch, from the ground up, there's no systems in place. You have to create every single system from the ground up. Now, granted, it's easier with computers and cloud-based computing now, all of these literally solutions in a box that you have, but still, so much of your time, and I've started businesses from scratch, so much of it is just devoted towards putting the systems in place before you even get your first dollar. Service business or manufacturing, what's your take there?
Oh, I think I love them both. Retail I love, service I love, manufacturing has its own sort of foibles. I do like product-based businesses because I just find something tangible to sell is easier than selling the invisible. Manufacturing, you've got to be aware of the capital cost. So you've got to have access to finance and understand, that you've got to invest up front in machinery, and then the money comes later. So you've got to be comfortable in that space with borrowing. We call it sort of, good debt versus bad debt.
Sure.
Debt to buy assets that generate money is good debt. Borrowing money to plug a hole in your profit and loss account is bad debt. And so you need to fund your lifestyle as well. Service-based businesses get off the ground a lot quicker, because it's a case of you're just looking to have people. The interesting one has been, the rise and potential fall of e-commerce. I don't know what it's like in the States, but we've had certainly through COVID, loads and loads of people have suddenly become, e-commerce, entrepreneurs, and set up, great websites and selling stuff. And we've been looking at sort of, acquisitions of these businesses, but I'm finding very few actually making any money.
Yeah.
And I had heard that private equity guys now are backing away from e-commerce because, they're finding that the actual cost of acquisition of a client now, the lifetime value, because it's so transient online, that they're not getting the return in trade that makes it worthwhile spending, £100 to actually acquire that client in the first place.
Gotcha. Well, maybe, I mean, there aren't a lot of them now, but there's a lot of brick and mortar businesses that haven't fully developed their online presence. So that could present an opportunity there, stores, to really expand the online. I have a friend who all he does is drive around all day and basically buy up people's junk. And then it's valuable junk, and he sells it on eBay, and he's crushing it now. And I just see a lot of opportunity out there. Hey, Kevin, people are going to want to find out more about you. They're going to want to connect with you on the web. Where to find you?
The best place is LinkedIn. LinkedIn's a great place. So it's just Kevin Stansfield. You can find me on LinkedIn. My website is abc-solent, solent.co.uk. You can look up actioncoach.com, which is the global site for Action Coach itself. And but if you're interested in the roller coaster ride, then my little book is on Amazon. So if you type my name into Amazon, Kevin Stansfield, the book is called The Big Dipper: How to Survive the Roller Coaster Ride of Business Ownership. And it's based on my father's story, the ups and downs. It's got a good ending because in the book, he actually sells his business. In real life, unfortunately, he had to give it away. So it's sort of the story that I would have wanted my dad to have gone through, but again, it's learning the lessons. Sometimes you've got to learn the lessons from failure in order to drive forwards to the next level. So.
Well, I'll just mention one thing that my father used to say, and he was a lifelong entrepreneur. Anytime you go into a new business, you're going to pay for lessons. And sometimes that price is too high and it'll force you out. And other times it can lead you to the promised land. Hey, if you got a question for Kevin, you can always shoot me an email, Kerry Lutz, KL@kerrylutz.com. And hey, you can go to the show notes in this interview on financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Click through, get Kevin's book, or connect with Kevin directly. And while you're there, please sign up for your free newsletter. Kevin, been a pleasure. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thanks for having me, Kerry. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Kerry Lutz's Financial Survival Network, your solution to today's trying times. For the latest, go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com. Financial Survival Network, now more than ever.